Okay, folks, we are back like we never left. This is episode 17, I think, of the Small Cap Review. Um, what a crazy week, and this Friday morning was no exception. Hope you guys crushed it this week. Um, Obviously, emotions were high. We are reaching kind of peak of this market phase that we're in. How do I know that? I mean, we can start here with the classic map of emotions. I think euphoric is a good way to describe this week when we start getting people putting rocket ship emojis and to the moon and squeeze the gamma squeeze in my comments on the video. And thank you for the comments. That's how you know we're up here. Also, if you look at the graph of where my channel views go, when you get the 10x video out of nowhere, we've reached the top. So hopefully you guys were able to bank and strike while the iron was hot this week. And yeah, some good plays today on Friday. So enough messing around. Let's go ahead and get into it. I will start with the one that I traded, AKAN. And what a sweet, sweet name this was. All right, let's look at the daily. Now, I had mentioned yesterday I expect the penny theme to continue to run, and that is what we got here. More levels that I'm seeing now. And so this play, what was I looking for? So we open up here in this kind of consolidation zone. And so I was just looking for this zone to hold, which also kind of lines up with the pre-market low level here that we had established after the initial leg up in the pre-market. Um, and so I had CRKN and FFIE on side screens, knowing that if they had some positive momentum or some volume, to kind of use that as a guide. And we'll get to those names here shortly as well. But I thought with the range that those, they're reaching a percent from their initial moves that is, kind of just unsustainable for, another ginormous move up that sustains. So again, we'll save that. We'll get to that when we get to it. But what do we have in this move here? We have an open right above these levels, kind of a dip down into it, a couple dips into it here. Low a day in the first 5 minutes, which is what we like to see, and a nice bounce off this 28-cent level that is right here on the chart. So everything in here, from 31 to 26 is kind of that area that I was looking for it to hold for a move up. First thing it had to do was test these 35s, which we saw clearly painted in the pre-market, taps on both sides, and it came back down to the space and then was able to get above VWAP, flag, and make a very nice move to the upside. So this move, from the obvious zone, no one's going to play it perfectly, but you do get almost a 100% move out of the name. Plenty of spots to take profits on the way, but it just holds the 8 EMA on the 2 minute the entire time. And once we're below it, all the way back down, all the way, all the way back down, down towards these yesterday's highs here. So really sick move on this one, and a pretty friendly trader. Had some nice volume. It did not have the, billions of shares of volume that we were seeing yesterday, but still, getting multiple million shares traded every 2 minutes on this was nice. And then, of course, when the real move came in, the real volume came in. And volumes is so, so, so important. If you guys, we're not aware of that, or we're not using volume as a key indicator is the wrong word, but as a focal point in your trading, the last few days, last week, should be a lesson that you got to follow the volume. With big volume comes big moves, comes big volatility, and at the end of the day, as day traders, that is what we are looking for. So it's been an awesome week for volume. I mean, the volume is flowing in the markets like it has not in years. So awesome to see. Great move here, and great signal, great exit signal up here at the top with this kind of doji candle and these upper wicks above the levels. And once you kind of get this knife move down below, um, you're good to get on out, take your profits, and be happy with a very nice trade. So plenty of names to go over, so we'll keep it moving. Another gapper today that fits the penny theme, BURU. Now this one was not the cleanest setup on the long side, but gave a pretty awesome opportunity on the short side, multiple as well with some obvious levels. So where do we get these levels from? Let's take a look. This nice daily zone here coming off of this lower pivot and this pivot as well in there. You know, bottom of consolidation, window gap, recent pivots. So pretty clean one to have marked out. And what do we get in terms of pre-market structure? Um, almost parabolic, maybe you can call it parabolic if you would like, but a straight up kind of pre-market structure and a deep pullback into open. So if you were going to play this, the thought would be, you know, hopefully these pivots down here hold. And I mean, there was actually many more down here. Got pivot there, kind of two touch down, which ended up being kind of the ultimate low today. But you're looking for these pivots to hold and starting to get a move up. So, oh my, excuse me. So what we get is kind of a double bottom look here into the wicks and then some higher lows that start to build and a nice blow off move into the clear daily level with some upper, you know, 1, 2, 3 touches of that upper zone that was clearly respected in the pre-market. So clean move there, clean price targets, and then a dump. But as we've been seeing with the market, consolidation, dips getting absorbed, but this level up here just ended up being too strong. So we get, you know, a triple top. Look, many touches of this level, and every time it comes up here, a pretty strong move to the downside. So decent move on the long side, not really the type that I would like to play. A little bit too deep of a pullback that lasts a little bit too long at the open, but I think it's the third day in a row that we have talked about those lower levels holding off of open, even if it does take a while, even if it is consolidating. As long as those lower levels hold and we're not continually making lower lows, it's worth keeping on radar, and we do get, you know, a nice flag into that move up. And this name had pretty good range from down here up to where the highs ended up being the obvious target, the daily zone, you know, over 50%. I'm sorry about that. And yeah, so decent name there. We will go FLJ, another gapper. What did this gap? This was 89% gapper. And sorry, I have not mentioned the gap percent on those previous names. So this is one that was on a thumbnail at open for me, but I did take it off when I saw this action down here and missed out on a really nice move. So what could we learn for next time? Let's see. Start with the daily chart as always. Now this is another one that had, I would say, obvious levels to mark out here. As always, you know, it's a little bit of an art, a little bit of a science, something that you will get better at with time if you're not already, you know, feeling like you're very good at it. So let's take a look. What do we have here? So we have a daily that is coming off of all-time lows, obvious consolidation down here at 64 cents, and then kind of the top out where it's tried to push from there up at $1.25, and then, you know, kind of the ultimate highs up here at 226. So we do get a dip down, not quite to 64 cents, but it's kind of nice that we get this level painted in the first 5 minutes, and then we see it hold, start to build from there. You know, I would not be interested in this, but once we get a move up above some of these daily levels and a nice tight flag, bottom wicks getting absorbed and volume, you know, pops on the initial move up here and then diminishing. You know what that looks like? That's a nice clean flag, volume explosion out of it for a nice move up. So if we're playing the range game from here, you're saying, okay, hopefully it comes up, test this level from pre-market. That's 20%. That's worth a trade in and of itself. Next level up, 45% away. And then, we get a similar setup to right here. Flag on top of VWAP, diminishing volume. And then with rising prices comes rising volume. Exactly what you want to see. EMAs supported and yeah, supporting the move on the way up. Get a couple halts in this name and levels hold true the entire time. You do have this pre-market high level here that you can easily draw out. And we like it when we get the halt up into the level and a resumption up above it. This time, of course, more tricky where you get I don't think that was a halt down. It was a halt down. So you get a halt down, on top of it, so almost the reverse move, but these levels do hold true. 1, 2, 3, 4 bottom wicks holding, 21 on the EMA holding, no closes below it on this entire move, and you get that last leg up into 275, almost up into these previous pre-market levels. I'll just use the 4-hour to show it. So it's important when you have wicks like that on the daily. Sorry, all right. I'm just not gonna do it. When you have days like this on the daily that are, major drawdown days where on the daily chart you're not going to be able to see any intraday levels here, go ahead, go to the hourly chart is what I like to use and find those, pre-market levels, find the consolidation within that day that dropped and use those as levels to project out. So you can see if you did that here, you got a great level that would have been respected the next time it came up to test it. And like I said, today we do not quite get there, but good levels to have on the chart. Maybe next week we will see some more action in there. So good name to trade today. Like I said, a little bit trickier, but if you were trading a little bit later into the day, you could have traded this flag, you could have traded this flag, you could have traded this flag, you could have traded the pre-market high test, plenty of ways to play this name, all giving great range. Even the last leg of this, immense range, 80% to the top. So really nice name to see play out. Let me check on Duo because I actually was not really ready to talk about this. Yeah, we will leave this one be since it is more of a choppy name, but we do see levels played pretty cleanly on this one. Kind of just trading in the range here between the 137 and 181 levels, which we have this consolidation zone. That's, kind of the key to drawing zones for me is kind of getting the lows and the highs of each leg of the move, the obvious pivot points that all traders are able to see. I actually probably should draw that like this with a daily zone to incorporate all of that in that bottom wick. Drag that over. It's really not going to make a difference. Oh man, I blew it. Really not going to make a difference on a chart like that on a day like today, but you see nice clean plays. So like I said, I wasn't prepared to talk about Duo, so I will not do that. What else we got? All right, let's talk about the leaders. Let's talk FFIE first. Now, in the comment section, people were looking for FFIE and CRKN continuation to happen. And my thoughts were we need one of two things to happen to get additional moves. We either need a gap above the previous high day, or we need serious volume, volume that rivals the previous days, which is almost hard to imagine when we had 3 billion shares traded on CRKN, but we need a serious volume to push. Because if we're going to get 50% of that volume, it's just going to be a fade. So we actually get each of those scenarios playing out separately on each of these. So FFIE was the one that gave us a gap above. So this was more or less exactly the play that you would have wanted for a gap above the previous highs. We get clear levels painted in the pre-market up here under this 303 daily level. And I guess the worst part about this penny stock mania we have been in is the fact that I have to roll out these daily charts on the videos every time, and let's see. We can just do this because these are the relevant levels up here. So again, how are we drawing those levels? The low of the consolidation, kind of the high of this push up, and of course, this one gets marked too, but this is the relevant push here. 303, 354, those are the levels I was looking at. And the next one, probably actually could have had the level up at 416. Would that have changed anything? Nope. But anyway, we get a pullback down to the previous high of day. I just have this as a nice little zone here. And I found, hopefully this is helpful, when I started trading, was just drawing lines on the chart. I wasn't drawing zones. I was just drawing single lines like this. But I have found it tremendously helpful in my trading to be drawing zones. I mean, where you just get down to the top of this candle, gives you more of a zone to work with, and I think that it helps me be more accurate in my trading because we get a dip into the zone. Yeah, you could say it's below and above the exact level, but for me, visually, execution-wise, it just helps a lot to have a zone to be able to play with. So we get a dip into the daily zone in the first 5 minutes, low a day first 5 minutes, key for a strong move up. And then obviously we have a ton of a ton of absorption and consolidation here on VWAP. So even if you're playing this initial move, zone to zone, 30%, worth trading right there. 30% in 4 minutes is that. I mean, you could call it a day right there if you wanted to. If you're trading this, you get a 30% move. You do not need another job. So nice move, worth taking there. And then we kind of get the signature that we've been seeing in these moves all week, these dips that end up getting absorbed. This is a really nice pair of candles right here, where you get the move flush below VWAP and then the immediate reclaim. And then we just have a soaker in the tape all the way. I mean, this is, what are we looking at? From 944 to 1050, almost an hour of consolidation on top of VWAP. That gives it the fuel for this move higher. VWAP's as a guide for the next leg up. And then it kind of gets you. I mean, it does what it's been doing all week. This fade, fast reclaim, flag, and then all week the next words out of my mouth would have been next leg up. But here finally, the top's got to be somewhere. We started this move under a buck, well under a buck. I mean, at like 10 cents. I mean, the low here was 3 cents, I can see. I mean, so this has been, 1,000% move. Not even the right math. Oh, over 1,000% move. So just nuts. Just nuts. Be thankful that we had a mover like this. We had a market like this week. That provided so much liquidity for us to be able to trade in. So, once these cross to the downside, I mean, the backside on these is going to be, a short seller's delight. So if you're on the short side, maybe next week is going to be kind of like the inverse of this week for you. So good luck to my shorts out there. I love you too. And yeah, so we're talking about the moves to the strong side, to the bull side. So that is what you have on this name. Once you get a crack of that key daily level, the pressure is on, and we start getting these really increased volume candles to the downside, which is something we have not really had a ton of. I mean, of course, opening prints will be higher volume, but later in the day, this is real selling happening. So let's touch on CRKN briefly. So this is one where we did not make it above the previous high of day. And so in my, scenarios that I laid out last night, we need serious volume, and we do get serious volume. We get, the first 2 candles, and again, these are 2-minute candles for me. We're getting 40 million shares, so 80 million shares in the first 4 minutes of the day. That's real volume. That's serious stuff. So, and with that, we are able to get that strong move to the upside. We fill this gap. I'm not going to scroll okay, I will. This is not too bad. We get this gap fill on the daily, the one at 55 cents. Where do we get that from? Right here. Yeah, it's just a little baby gap, but gaps are important. We get a fill of that gap here and fails from there. And you can tell volume way diminished. So even though this is still a lot of volume, 5 million share 2-minute candles, that's kind of a mouthful, but nothing like the 40 million share candles we had at the open and the kind of volume we would need to see, billions of shares traded on the day, even though today, already at 1.4, so strong volume. Nonetheless, I mean, this is just nuts. This will probably amaze me for a long time. 3 billion, excuse me, traded that day. So how could you capture this move to the long side? The key here was in the pre-market and after hours levels. This after hour level here, right above the daily pivot at 370. Where do we get the 370 pivot from? This kind of consolidation level here. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 touches of the level, clear level of importance. And so when we have the pre-market zone setting up, getting respected right on top of it, that's kind of what you'd like to see. Now we do not get the kind of signature weak open into the zone and the move up. With a name that has this much attention, this much, momentum behind it, it just ripped out of the open. There are so many people still eager to get a piece of it. Chasers that maybe hadn't played the move before and saw how much this is up and it's like, oh, I want this to go up another 500% today or whatever it did yesterday. But you do, and if you're quick to take profits, you get rewarded for that in a market like this. But in the end, these companies, I mean, they suck. They, 1 out of a million of these companies will end up being a real thing. Not 1 out of a million, but 1 out of thousands end up actually being a real company. These are just vehicles to trade. So, yeah, that just meaning that gravity is going to be in the shorts' favor once the market finds equilibrium. Price discovery does have to happen, and all those longs have to be sold. So nice move off of these pre-market levels, but once it is done, it is done. And again, like on FFIE, once the top is in, we get a serious fade all the way 60 cents to 15 cents, and yeah, that's quite the move. So congrats to those who banked on both sides of this one today. As we see, once the key levels crack, clear, obvious move to the downside. So draw your levels, practice them, get better at drawing them, and it will reward you. So GWAV, another one that we can take a quick look at. And what do we have on this one? Kind of a similar thesis to these other names where I thought the zones were super clear on all these names today. You just had to execute, you just had to be patient. And really any of these names, if you had your zones drawn out, you could have made, there were significant moves to be made here. So what do we see in this play? At open, comes up, test the previous high of day. Again, drew it as its own, and we do get respect of that level here in the pre-market multiple times. So it comes up, tests, rejects it, but here still in the first 5 minutes makes that low and a move up. EMAs positively stacked on top of VWAP, and we're ready to rip. We get a nice retest here of the EMAs, higher low, if you will, and that continues to make this move higher. Checks in with the pre-market high level, does a little ping pong, but still has strength enough to go up to this next obvious daily level at 298, which is the gap fill level. Well, I guess not technically the gap fill. I always kind of semantics here on what you want to call the gap fill. This is the clearest pivot in the gap, but technically gap up there, so whatever, it doesn't matter, whatever you want to call it. Obvious level on the chart, makes it all the way up to there and then dumps from there. So that's why you see me taking profits at these levels, because you never know. Sometimes you're going to get a breakthrough, sometimes you'll get consolidation, and sometimes you get a big old dumperooski with cheese. So good to take profits at your levels and don't let hope be the thing driving your decisions. And then we get a nice short setup here. Now this Doesn't look like it came quite up to what I typically, yep, it did actually, right up to the 61 fib. 61.78 fib, that is the zone I'm looking for. This lines up with the pre-market highs and obvious level of resistance here coming from the bottom. So nice short play there, consolidation and dump below the zone. And excuse me, with all these names being weak, you can expect weakness on this one too, and deep fades are on. So that may be a little preview into what we are going to see next week. Not the time to hold your bags, I will say that much. So anything else we want to talk about? We did all these. I think that should pretty much do it. This one was a little disappointing. KXIN, this is one I was a little bit hopeful for with these clear levels. I just really liked the range that it had on it. I'm hoping that we could get like a whole gap fill situation, but it made the move in pre-market. So I was thinking, maybe if we hold this previous high of day, hold this daily zone on the chart, we can get this whole move, 75% move. But once it dipped below and rejected this level, it was cooked from there and is following the rest of the penny theme. So that'll do it for me today. I hope you guys traded well this whole week. It's been an awesome week. If not, good news is market's not going anywhere. We will be back at it next week. So appreciate you guys tuning in. If yesterday was the first video that you saw, like I said, we're doing this every day. Stick around to learn something, leave a question, leave a topic, whatever you got, and appreciate it. Have an awesome weekend, and I'll catch you guys on Monday.